guys, Deathscyp here from YCG, your casual gamer. So in this episode, we're going to learn how to create those three assets over here using the BSP brush method. So we're going to create a basic platform, a large metal door, and which is going to be our control console to put a switch on it later on in our tutorial series. And also we're going to create this metal material for the black and yellow stripes. Very easy. I'm going to show you how to do that, and this is what it's going to look like at the end. So stick around and let's get started. Okay, so BSP brush level 2 learnings. In the first season we only did extruding method to build ourselves a BSP brush level design. But now we're going to use these methods to create our own assets. Static mesh, that is. So if I wanted to, I could just change this whole level into a static mesh. And look how much time I would be saving, whether I would have to go inside the 3D animation tool and just create everything and make sure that the scale is right for my material, that everything is aligned properly. I don't have to. And the Unreal Engine 4 3D tool editor is going to remember everywhere that I aligned my texture. And if I create a static mesh right now, not only is it going to create it, but it's going to make a light map for it that's adequate to how you put your texture, which is pretty freaking awesome if you ask me. So yeah, the only downside is that you have to be careful. Like in the last episode, we moved it from factory 1 to factory 2, and it's hard to go back on your step if you extrude too much. But that being said, the results are great if you learn to work with the BSP brush. So using this method, we're going to create our own assets. So I'm going to show you how I made my first one. And I'm going to show you every way you can move, play around, twist it, and whatnot. And after that, I'm going to leave it to your imagination to try to recreate the other two assets that I created using those methods. So let's go ahead and create our own platform. So inside the geometry tab, let's bring in a box. As you see right now, the texture to it is the metal sheet because I was selected on it. If you click on any of the texture and you bring a cube out, it's going to put the texture directly on it by default. So right here I'm going to set up the measures. So 150 for the X, 150 for the Y, and 25 for the Z. So if I wanted to now, I could just click on create static mesh, and there you go. I would have a static mesh of what seems to be a metal sheet block. But I want different texture apply over here. So I want a different texture on top. I want one texture that goes around, which is my black and yellow stripe, and I want one texture underneath. So three different textures. So what I'm going to have to do is, first off, I'm going to grab the MTech panel and bring it on top. And you see already it's not well assigned. So I think I already had the measures inside my head. I take a 1.6 and 1.6 for the scale, and I think that would do the job. Oops, I'm not selecting on it. 1.6 and 1.6 and apply. And you see it's already pretty good. I just have to move it a little bit, so in the other direction. There we go for this side, and then on the other side too. Let's move it a little bit, and there you go. It's nice and center, and the engine is going to remember that. Once I create my engine, my static mesh out of this, everything is going to be nice and scaled. So now for the sides, I don't have the material yet, but here's I'm going to show you a nice new feature in Unreal, which is texture object switch using the same material inside a material instance. So inside the material over here, metal sheet, you're going to see all these settings that are already default with Unreal Engine. But let's say I just want to change the texture. And let's say I just want to put my, over here, black and yellow line. Look how nice the material already looks like, because I just use everything that's already default with the engine. But to do that, I would have to create a new material, and I don't want that. I just want to change the texture. So how do I do that? Control Z to go back to the metal sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag from the texture sample over here, and do a static switch. I'm going to leave it to false because the false should always be the default, and drag from here the result to the multiplier, which is where the metal sheet was already going to begin with. I'm going to keep the roughness because I like what this texture brings out, and from the true I'm going to copy paste, so Control C, Control V, and here I'm going to put my own texture, which is the black and yellow line, and drag this to the true value. Now how do I play with that value? I need to change this into a parameter, and you see over here, if I right click, there's no options to do so. But if I drag the value out, then there's a static bool parameter, and this is what we need. We're going to call it switch texture, and not like that, w switch texture. Compile and save, and there you go. You're done for the bulk of the programming. You can get out of there, right click over here and create a material instance, call it black, yellow, and double click on this one, and here you can just switch the switch to true. You can save everything. It's going to compile. You can get out already, and you'll see once it's out that the yellow stripes are now over here with our nice metal texture around it. So we're going to drag this inside our level, inside our mesh, and there you go. We are done with our platform. Different texture on top. I panned it the way I want it. I created a new material instance with a different texture, and underneath I did a different texture. So now I'm going to show you what options you can do before you do the create static mesh. You can just go inside the extrude over here, click on the face you want, and you can either click on extrude and choose how much Unreal unit you want to use to extrude up or extrude down, whichever face you want to do, just like creating a BSP level. Or you can just drag the face up. And then if you want to make, let's say you want to play with these sides and you want to put them inside more, you can do that too. So I grab the other side and bring them inside. And I can do the same thing on the other side. I can even grab the point I want to move, drag it wherever I want. But you're going to see it's going to deform the texture, so be careful when you use that. You see there's already two texture now over here. And this is how I created all the assets you saw in the showcase of this episode. So I'm going to Control Z out of here. So using this method, I'm going to let your imagination create the large metal door that we did for both sides, and the console for the side over here. And this is what it should look like at the end when you're done placing all the assets everywhere. And now the last thing I want to do before I let you go is I'm going to create the static mesh over here. So now that we have everything we like, go back to the geometry, the place shift, and you're going to do create static mesh. You're going to choose in the props to season 2 and name it platform -1. And there you go. Now you see over here, it's not even a BSP brush anymore. It converted to a static mesh. You have the 3 elements over here that I can play. I can just put one over here and it doesn't change the other 2. And if I put it back after, it remembers how it was scaled and how it's supposed to apply to the texture. Okay, last thing I wanted to do, since in the next video we're going to learn how to use the static meshes now to create new static meshes, how to merge them together, and how it can apply to make some pretty nice asset. But what we need for the next level is we're going to need the ceiling. So let's make that real quick. You're going to grab the side over here, extrude it by 25, and then this one by 2100, I think, That's perfect. And then on the other side over here, let's grab this face there and extrude it by 750. Now, if you have a little bit of texture leak, don't be alarmed. The only reason this is happening is because of my mistake in the last video. But it's, I want you to, I wanted to keep it because these things can happen. And it's pretty easy to fix. You just have to click on all the textures and align them again and just add the texture again. Sometimes it's going to happen, but just make sure not to do the mistakes I did. The reason I didn't redo my video and hid it from you guys is because it's part of the programming process, and you're gonna have these issues sometimes, and you have to learn to work around them. So after you're done doing this, just add the rock sandstone texture to the top, and we're done. So see you in the next episode, and good luck making those three objects. Have a good night.